presentation in the evening. I think that was really wonderful stuff, and I'm so proud that Hamilton 350 was able to help put this on. We are, as Jim mentioned, have our own local fracked gas pipeline. The pipeline going through the territories in BC is a fracked gas pipeline. The one planned to go through rural Hamilton is a brand new fracked gas pipeline. So there are those similarities. It's a much smaller thing. And it is going through territories which are more impacted than the ones in British Columbia, but nevertheless, in many cases, they're very significant lands. We're going through lands which have been designated even by the city as environmentally significant lands, through one of the most significant wetlands in Ontario, the Beverly Swamp, across the biggest stream in Hamilton, Spencer Creek, the one that flows through Dundas and into Cootes Paradise, across Bronte Creek, which you'll know if you've ever driven to Toronto, through Grindstone Creek, which goes through Burlington and empties into the harbor directly, through Fairchild Creek, which goes into the, Fairchild isn't actually in the path of this, but Fairchild comes out of the Beverly Swamp and goes into the Grand River system. So this is a major central wetland area. It has been impacted by pipelines before. Enbridge wants to build a brand new one. Their purpose is very interesting. It appears that the main economic benefit that they see from this pipeline is not to sell gas to you or me, because they have recognized that that market is actually shrinking. We are doing our best to reduce the energy we consume, and there are things happening virtually every day about how we can do that. There's a major article in CBC today, for example, about replacing gas furnaces with heat pumps. And that's part of the future that we need to go to if we're going to get off fossil fuels. So the Enbridge application actually says that because of climate policies, which they don't explain, they don't think the market in Ontario for natural gas will expand. However, they do have a couple of aces in the hole. One of them is they assume that Ontario is going to build more gas-fired power plants as we shut down some of our nuclear facilities. And the second is that they see a market for gas that they can ship through Flamborough across Ontario in New York, in Maine, in New Hampshire, in the New England states. This gas is coming from Pennsylvania. It's nice, it would be nice to have a map that we could throw up here. But if you think about where Pennsylvania is, if you've got any sense of that, it has a huge border. You got the map? Oh, great. Throw up the map. It has a huge border with New York. But because of people like us, they're having a great deal of difficulty getting frack gas from Pennsylvania into New York. So there's a runaround, and that is to ship it west and north to Sarnia, across southern Ontario through Flamborough, past Toronto, past the end of Lake Ontario, and down into the United States that way. It's a runaround. That's their ace in the hole, that they think they're going to be able to sell more gas that way. So this is a brand new 48-inch pipeline. It's going through a portion of Hamilton which has very shallow soil because it's basically on bedrock. So one of the reasons why we have the wetlands there that we do have, they don't run away, they're sitting on top of bedrock. So in order to build a pipeline, which has to be at least 1.2 meters below the surface, and which itself is 48 inches, this is the route, you can just follow your way around that. PA is Pennsylvania, and that's the actual plan for this piece of pipeline that's going through Hamilton. So the land up there is shallow soil, it's sitting on bedrock. In order to put this pipeline through, they have to blast. They have to use what they call a hoe ram. And they want to do it beside an existing natural gas pipeline. Which may be risky, or who knows. You know, like we know that gas pipelines have been blowing up fairly regularly on Enbridge. One in Tennessee last year killed some people. One in BC about a year ago. Another one in, there were 3 major ones in the last year and a half where major explosions have taken place as a result of gas pipelines, and Enbridge gas pipelines specifically. But this is the biggest pipeline company on the continent. So this is the plan they're presenting here. At this point, where we're at is there are several potential obstacles in front of this. None of them particularly likely to succeed, but I can run them through you anyway. The city of Hamilton has designated much of this area, including the Beverly Swamp, as environmentally significant areas that should be protected. The city of Hamilton will have to give some permits for this process. So they're one pressure point. A second one is the Hamilton Conservation Authority. The Hamilton Conservation Authority not only has to provide permits, it owns some of the land that this is passing through. Some of us were up there. These lands right in here are owned by the Hamilton Conservation Authority. They were purchased in 1970, and if you look on their website, they were purchased to be permanently protected from development and bulldozers. Anybody who knows about construction of pipelines knows that it has something to do with bulldozers, and there's lots of them involved in it. So the Conservation Authority is also a pressure point and can be pushed on this subject. The third is the Ontario Energy Board. It is the official regulator on this. And officially, the regulator doesn't really give a damn about climate or the environment, but it says that it's concerned about the cost to the public of any kind of project like this. And the Ontario Clean Air Alliance has pointed out that there's a $205 million cost to this project. $120 million Enbridge is proposing to the Ontario Energy Board should be paid for by current consumers of gas in Ontario. Anybody who has gas? In order to cover the cost and so on. So there is an energy cost here that there may be an argument for even the Ontario Energy Board to think twice about approving this. At the end of the day, if those things are unsuccessful, but they're part of the process and we're willing to work through those processes, there is obviously the kinds of tactics that are being used and have been used historically by the people who have been most successful in protecting the lands. When the settlers arrived on this continent, you could drink the water everywhere. You could breathe the air without fear of toxicity. The soils were not toxic. The soils were not eroded away. When it rained hard, the rivers didn't turn brown. All that degradation has happened since the settlers arrived. So the people who know how to protect the land are the ones who are standing in front of that pipeline in BC and the ones who we need to stand beside in all the struggles that they're waging.
I think you should keep your ears open. Trish has suggested a couple of actions that we should be supporting, please. There will be other actions on this pipeline through the Hamilton 350 Committee. If you've signed up the clipboard, we'll be getting in touch. Please be brave. You don't have to get shot. You're not going to have to be as brave as those people on those front lines are right now. But please take some time, come out, help protect our world. Thank you very much for coming, folks.